Hi there, it's Friday night and welcome to the Crazy House World Championship 2022. It's still the qualifying rounds, round 4 between GRXbullet and tjarkvos. This is in the 4th round and they are competing for a spot in the 5th round where the winner will take on either Legion Destroyer or Jeremy Durham for a place in the candidates. So I think the players are both online and ready to go. GRXbullet is the slight rating favorite, I think, but I expect an exciting match. Hard to predict the outcome. So both players seated. GRXbullet starting with white. Time limit is 3 minutes plus 2 seconds increment, and the first player to reach 5.5 points out of 10 is the winner of this match. And welcome those of you who are watching. Feel free to give suggestions and ask questions. What are your predictions in this match? Who do you think will win? At the moment, GRXbullet is even above 2,600. Very impressive. So I guess that makes him the slight favorite, but ratings aren't everything. Welcome, Schnebler. So hopefully they will start playing any second now. Don't know what they are waiting for. And I have a bit of a cold, so I'm sorry if my voice isn't what it usually is. I'm not sure I understand the question. What stage? It's still a very young chess variant. But it's developing. It's fun. Fun to play, fun to watch. Yeah, as I said, very young chess variant. Tjarkvos is playing the you could say the Yugoslav setup. I don't trust this in Crazy House. I think it's too passive, giving white too many options. But it's an interesting way to provoke your opponent. And now I think white has misplayed this actually, because the black knight gets an excellent square on e5, and this bishop is pointing towards h3, and actually this knight is not perhaps so good at g5. If you take with the pawn, this is in a bad spot after knight e5. So GRXbullet probably regretting his d5 pawn push there. Taking with the knight instead. Not sure, maybe knight e5 was stronger than taking on d5, because this invites knight takes f7 moves. And if you need to spend a move on a pawn at e6, white should be, well, at least a bit better in the position. So this is very sharp. You want to put a pawn maybe on e2. But how strong is knight takes f7 here? That is the question. Knight takes, rook takes, bishop takes, king takes. This does seem very natural. I was thinking queen takes d4 at first also, but then maybe knight e2. Knight e2 and take with the knight rather than the bishop. Because you need the bishop here to defend the king. So this is clearly dangerous. You have a pawn, 2 pawns in hand and a rook. And I guess the pawn goes to f7 and the rook on the 8th rank. Black decides to sacrifice. With a rook in hand, you would have to take h3, but now you can maybe move your king instead. You would have to take because king h1, rook g1 and smothered mate on f2, but black doesn't have any heavies in hand. Let's say king h1, take here, and what happens next? I kind of like the light pieces for black here. Pawn h3 is probably a strong threat. What do you do with the heavy pieces in hand? White decides to give a whole queen. But after bishop takes, isn't the bishops and the knight covering all the important squares? Oh, this is a tricky check. Oh, wow. If you take, you have knight d5. But is it mate? I mean, you can go to f7. You might also... No. You cannot go to g8. You have to take the rook. King g8, knight h6. But is this mate? Queen e7. King g8. And where is the rest of the attack? The knight covers f7. I suppose you need to take the knight with the queen. And I guess white has some chances here. Not too many defenders. Was that the best defensive move? I would probably have put a pawn... No, the queen was under attack. But still maybe pawn f6. No. Pawn f6, take the queen right here. Maybe that was good. Let's have a check afterwards. Tenacious defense here by Tjarkvos. And look at the queen threatened by 3 pieces. These knights defending each other. And we have a time scramble. Looks like black is running out of but surely this is mate, yeah. Knight here should decide it, or even e8. Rook g8, classic. And a couple of more checks, and it's checkmate. Check here, take c7, it's checkmate. So 1-0 GRXbullet. Let's see if I think I spotted something here. The computer thinks this is equal. But then he changes his mind. Queen d8, that's deep. Bishop h3 makes a lot of sense, clearing the 8th rank. But even that seems good. And this is the position where I was thinking maybe pawn f6. Yeah, this is good for white. The idea being knight takes here and knight h6 check. And then you have pawn g7. So actually pawn f6 is a very natural move that is hard to do anything against. You just want to check with the knight and put a pawn on g7 with check. So how was the rest of the game? I thought black was defending really well here, but maybe it was just an illusion. No. Pawn f3 here is good, apparently. And somewhere around here, bishop h3, yeah. That would be the winning move, I think. Never mind, we have a new game. And apparently we have a theoretical discussion here. GRXbullet playing the kingside field shadow with black. Look out here for double take here, and if the queen takes, you have a fork on c7. That pins the knight and also this defends c7. Probably white was threatening to take on g6. But that invites knight e5. This looks like a strong position for white. Yeah, why not take g6? The question is, should you take g6 here or should you do pawn f7 first? Well, here everything comes with check. And this is a very impressive setup. This is close to winning on the spot. What is black supposed to do if you just move your knight back here? Okay. I guess the game ended rather quickly there. Because now you have the knight f8 mate threat, and it's impossible to do anything about it. Just picking up a lot of pieces and it's mate. Okay. That was an easy win for Tjarkvos, who is sacrificing a pawn in the opening, and the bishop b5 check makes sure that the black development is a bit disrupted. White is 2 pawns up. Giving back a pawn here is interesting. Pounding on the d4 pawn, and black doesn't want to take here and allow the queen trade. With the king in the center and stuff in hand, it looks dangerous. So what's this? Pawn e3. Maybe you can just take on e3? Is that a move? Take on e3. I think it seems very natural. Pawn f2. Move the king. Because if black takes, you can trade queens. And I'm wondering how good this is. Yeah. Maybe castle. He decides to go for the attack at once. Grabbing e3, and now he has a check on e5, picking up the bishop in case black takes on e3. So the black king is probably less safe than the white counterpart. So white is picking up the bishop and should be a little better, I think. But it's not so easy to make use of all those pawns he has in hand. I bet he would love to trade, but now things started getting very ugly here. What, one pawn here, take the bishop with check. Or maybe start with taking here so you can put the bishop on c7 maybe. This is very dangerous. You have moves like a4 or knight a3 or some combination of those moves. And that king on b6 is not getting home anytime soon. And when it's coming home in the coffin, I think. And while we're waiting for tjarkvos move, I can tell you that this is I had my last day at work for this semester, so I will probably do a lot of streaming this summer. I hope you will enjoy listening to my streaming. How about knight e5 here? Knight e5. The idea being knight takes, pawn takes, it's check, and then you have knight c4. Knight e5. So here we have knight c4. This is strong as well. It's even stronger. You need to give the queen. And then you just take on c5 with the queen, and it's all over. Queen at b4 mate in the next move. No, it's not mate. But you can play queen at b4, then take on b5 twice with your queens, and it's mate. For instance, and queen at a5 next move. GRXbullet having a bit of fun there in the end. Humiliating his opponent just to get under his skin. Tjarkvos playing white. He won convincingly the last game. Let's see if GRXbullet can mix things up here. Yeah, he's choosing another opening. And Tjarkvos is giving up a piece for free here. Oh, for a pawn. An interesting piece sacrifice. And this is provocative. Well, maybe just bishop g6, bishop at g6. Double pawns mean you get open lines also. You need to remember that. But I'm thinking knight e3 hitting f5 and d5. Pawn e6, and you can double the f pawn as well. It's starting to look a bit ugly. Yeah, that was a very wise retreat. I'm not sure what white is hoping for here with that check. The bishop seems a bit out of play on the queen side. But he has some sort of tactical idea here. Is it pawn c7? Queen takes, you can take on d5, but this looks okay for black, I think. Funny position here where black only has knights and white only has diags in hand. The bishop battery there seems powerful. Question is, do you play d5? You need to be a bit careful here about moves like queen takes f2. It looks silly, but maybe it's not so bad. Queen takes and knight e4 and king is out in the open. So this prepares e4 and d5, and it does seem like the white forces are well coordinated. Although, what happens after black eyes the g2 pawn? I'm wondering. Maybe you could go rook g1. Here I'm a bit worried about knight at g2 check. Bishop takes, knight takes, king f1, bishop a3. Or maybe knight at e3, forking, king and queen. Tjarkvos thinking a lot here. Crucial game. And why not keep checking? Knight at f4. Knight takes. And this is probably a better version. Knight at f4, because now you can take on f3 with check. Ooh, you not just need a pawn here for e2 or knight for e3, and black crashes through here, taking d1 with check. Queen g2, king e1, knight takes d3 mate. Queen g2, king e3, knight d5 mate. And this is also made in a couple of moves. Queen here goes to f2. 3-1 GRXbullet. That was an important break for GRXbullet. Tjarkvos sticks to his opening, claiming there was nothing wrong with his position. But if you want to repeat an opening where you lost, maybe you should have some sort of improvement prepared. Yeah, just take d4 here. If what black takes here, you have rook g1. This bishop is threatened. This looks good for white, I'd say. White has plenty of pawns to put on the board. Pawn at c3, I'd say. Is black better? Where is black better? I don't get it. But you might be right. And the threat towards the knight isn't much of a threat. Take here, bishop takes. Can you go queen takes d4 then and fork back the queen? This seems a little loose for white, but if he can get the position under control here and put his pawn army on the board, he will have a lot of pressure and board control. Did he miss? Queen takes d4. I suppose you take the bishop. Well, taking d3, queen takes, knight check, king moves. You have a mating threat on d8, so it's probably just bad for black. And now what? A very double-edged position here. But black has great board control here. Yeah, knight g2. Maybe just pick up the bishop. Threatening the rook and pointing towards e3. Making use of one of all those pawns he has in hand. It does look like white has a nice flight square here on c2. So not a huge threat taking on d3. Can white get aggressive here somehow? So black has been better putting his pieces on the board here. White has 6 pawns waiting in line. 6 pawns. And now he's in trouble. Things have gone south here the last few moves. Now we have rook c1. Winning the queen. Threatening maybe queen takes b4. As soon as the checks are over, this game is over. Actually, this keeps the game going a bit longer. Nice find. Here the rook can take. And white is a bit desperate. a4 was a nice move, threatening the double check on b4. So Tjarkvos winning his second game. It's 3-2 GRXbullet. And we will be right back after this. So what's happening here? GRX playing another opening, early a6. White not taking the piece that was offered. Instead trying to pick up the e4 pawn. Black attacking g2 instead. And just going for it. Interesting. This seems like a very critical position. Trying to get the light squared bishop out. Of course, black has some compensation here, but it seems like white mended everything nicely. And he's prepared to use his extra pawn to start attacking the dark squares on black's king side. Giving back a pawn for complete control over the f6 square. but at the same time you open up this long diagonal. Rook takes g2 looked perhaps a bit optimistic. Now white can take a rook that will sit nicely on f8 or g8. And that came with the check. And now queen at d8, the next move maybe. It's a forced mate. Queen at d8. Rook takes, queen takes. Simply rook c5. And white is picking up everything here. Easy win for Tjarkvos, who has equalized. And with that confidence gained, he switches back to his pet defense. He's happy to give up the f6 knight. Although I need to say I'm not entirely convinced by this. White simply aiming for natural development. And if black needs to close the e-file here, he's soon out of compensation. Okay, e4 was an active square to close the e-file. Now take on e3 with the rook. Or don't. I was thinking rook takes e3 and bishop check here. Never mind. He took on e3 now instead. So what's up here? White threatens to take with check on d8. But maybe this check. The idea was pawn after f2 take maybe, and then take with check on d1. Oh, that was a brave move. But now d4 is hanging. The white queen is hanging. And I think black missed a really strong move here. Pawn at f3. Because white cannot take with a knight. Taking with the king is dangerous. If you take with a pawn, and then queen takes here, knight c4 will happen. But that game ended quickly anyway. What happened in the end? So maybe just taking on d5 was good anyway. This is strong. But this seems even better. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is forced. Strong comeback here by Tjarkvos, who has won 3 games in a row. Entering a theoretical line. I don't know much about this, but after the queen takes here, you need to be careful about this square. So I guess the idea for white is to check the king and put a pawn on h6. Quite primitive, but probably very effective. In Crazy House, you need to be a bit careful about bringing out your queen out on the board early, because it might become a target. Sort of a stepping stone for your opponent to put pieces on the board. This is a sneaky bishop position, because after takes, the white queen is under fire. And now white is threatening to take on e6 and then take on g7, so black hurries to the g7 pawn's defense. So where is that knight going? It's getting captured everywhere. Nice little find. Maybe take on g7 with a knight. Because now you can take with check whenever you move your knight. And it's close to mate if black takes here, isn't it? Knight check. here. Okay, take. No. Black will survive. Probably pawn f7 just to take with check on d8. You have some options here as white. Maybe knight e5, pick up the bishop. So material-wise, it's even at the moment, but black looks slightly less safe with his king. Sort of a dual purpose move here. Pseudo threats and attacking the bishop. But this is a nice move. If black takes here, you have pawn f7 and then take back with check with a devastating attack. Under promoting there on g8 to capture with check. Still hoping to take with check on e5. But surely now you can just take on e5. Because black doesn't even have a decent check. He cannot take on f8 because of queen f7 mate. There's a mating threat here with the queen. And this looks like it's all over. Closing the exit there and then delivering mate on e8. Tjarkvos wins again. And he only needs a draw in this game and he's through to the next round. Just copying white, breaking the symmetry. White going for an early queen sack here, which leaves the black king a little naked. So what do you do? So now you can put a rook on h4 whenever you like and win the queen back. I think maybe that was the safer option. Rook h4. So rook h4, what is he waiting for? I'm thinking rook h4. If the pawn takes here, you simply take the queen. With multiple mating threats here in the corner. So this is not as forcing as the other line. But do you go bishop g7 here? What do you do? Yeah, that seems natural. And then maybe take with the rook here on h6. And now we can take the queen. But there are some tricks here. Pawn here. Maybe it wasn't safe. No, it wasn't. But now white is threatening once again to take the queen on f8. Oh, this is so sharp. There are checks here with pawns, and then the bishop takes g2 counter check. We need to take something here. So at least black didn't get mated here. And he has some interesting possibilities of his own. Desperately probing for weaknesses in the white position. Yeah, threatening checks here to pick up the bishop with check. Let's see if there is a mating attack. Black would have wanted another knight for e2. Is there a mate now? I don't quite think so. I'm not sure where this is leading us. Nowhere, probably. And now the same ideas for white instead. It does look like white will win now. Why not place the bishop there instead? Chasing the rook in the corner. Now mate is coming here on c8, it's forced. GRXbullet narrowing the gap to just 1 point. So tjarkvos needs half a point or a full point here to clinch the victory in this match. And to be quite frank, I hope the match ends soon because I'm so tired. That's life. When you work as a teacher and you want to give and give and give to the students, you end up tired. Slight concession there by black, giving white the semi-open c-file. So white wants a knight for the g7 square. Probably want to take, and when black takes here, you don't need to allow the knight g7 check. This is probably better. But even so, I think white is in great shape. A very tense strategical battle here between the two players. Just castle short, I'd say. Bishop e6 here, picking up a very important piece. This should be decisive. White won a piece. He has an extra pawn, and he has just a very, very pleasant position. Maybe pawn g7 here, Just to lure the king here, knight e6, picking up the queen. And this should be over pretty soon. GRX, you're desperately trying to find something that just isn't there. So, picking up the queen for rook and knight. Black king out in the open, and the black king is bound to die in the face of the white army here. Well, just trying to open the position. He has such a strong material lead. You can take on h6 if you like, knight at f7. Yeah, they both take on f6. Let go of your queen. Then you take on g7 with check. Rook h8, mate. Tjarkvos won. Congratulations, Tjarkvos. You are through to the next round. beating GRXbullet, and you'll play Legion Destroyer or Jeremy Durham the next round. And then the winner between Zixon and Fumitox for a place in the candidates. Thank you so much for tonight. I'm sorry I'm so tired again, but now I get the time to sleep, and I will come back with more live Crazy House. See you again soon. Have a nice evening.